This is going to be an update for the Fury Warrior in SoD Phase 4, but this time this build is gonna include the set bonuses. Let's take a look at the set bonuses and let's see why that changes everything. This is the DPS set for the Warrior. As you can see, the two pieces that you get 10 rage when you change your stances. So if you got stance mastery, which is 25 rage that you can keep when you change a stance, you're gonna get 35 rage when you stance dance. So you will be able, when you change a stance, of immediately doing like a whirlwind or a bloodthirst or whatever. The four pieces after leaving a stance, you're gonna be able to still use the abilities of the previous stance for 5 seconds. So let's say you are in Berserker stance and you change to Battle stance, you're still gonna be able to use Whirlwind for 5 seconds. And the sixth piece is that for the first 10 seconds after activating a stance, you're gonna get an additional benefit. The ones that are concerned to the DPSers are that when you go to Battle stance, you're gonna get 10% more damage, and when you go to Berserker stance, you're gonna get 10% more crit. Now, by the wording of this set, it is clear, at least to me, maybe I am wrong here, but you're gonna be able to get 2 buffs at the same time. So if you go to Battle stance and then you go back to Berserker stance, you should be in theory able to get the 10% crit and the 10% damage at the same time. Of course, that is absolutely gigantic, and that's gonna make this build work. The way that the GCD works for stances is that changing a stance will not trigger a GCD on your abilities, but using an ability will trigger a GCD on your stance. Of course, that can all be solved with macros, and that's gonna make this process a lot easier. So anyway, let's take a quick look at the talents here. We're gonna take 5% more crit, of course, no brainer right there. Then you can take either Unbridled Rat for a little rage, is very little, or you can take Booming Voice, is the same thing. Then we're gonna take Improved Battle Shout for more attack power. We're gonna be taking Enrage because we need the talent on the bottom of it. We're gonna be taking Offhand Specialization. We're gonna take 4 points here. We're gonna take Death Wish, that's just a great cooldown that gives you a lot of damage. Of course, we're gonna take that. We're gonna take 5 points in Flurry because this is 30% attack speed, that's absolute bonkers. And we're gonna take Bloodthirst because that's the best ability. Of course, that's gonna be our bread and butter here. 45% attack power, that's gonna be the highest scaling ability in the game. Then for the other side, we're gonna be taking Rend right here, 3 points, of course, for the talent at the bottom. We're gonna take 2 points in Heroic Strike just to get down here. We're gonna take Tactical Mastery because we can keep 25 rage when we stance dance, and that's gonna enable us to keep changing stances for the rest, of course. This is why I say that you can get 35 rage total when you change a stance. We're gonna take Anger Management. It doesn't say so on the tooltip, but this is actually 1 rage every 3 seconds. We're gonna take 3 points in Deep Wounds. This is huge. Every time you crit, you get a big dot. We're gonna take 2 points right here in Overpower. We're gonna be overpowering this whole time, and we're gonna take 2 points in Impale to scale harder, and now we got 2 points left over, and those 2 points are gonna go to Execute. Yes, we are gonna execute again. For the head, we're gonna be taking Taste for Blood. That's gonna make you overpower every 6 seconds, of course. When you rend, we gotta keep rend up. We're gonna be stance dancing constantly, and if you stance dance, you can still overpower for 5 seconds even if you're in Berserker stance, so there is really no reason not to do it. If you put 50% more crit added with like some molten core gear, that's gonna be effectively 100% crit every time. A guaranteed crit is gonna hit hard even on a one-hander. For the back, we're gonna be taking Fresh Meat. It's gonna give you 10% more damage when you Bloodthirst every so often, and that's of course very good. For the chest, we're gonna be taking Blood Frenzy because it is gonna make your rend scale better, and it's gonna give you a scaling with attack power, so rend is gonna be a big part of your damage too now. We gotta keep rend up anyway for Taste for Blood, of course. For the wrist, we're gonna be taking Rampage. You just pop it and you get attack power. That's pretty much it. Of course you want it. For the hands, we're gonna be taking Single-Minded Fury because it gives you 2% attack speed every time you hit the same target. It can cap up to 10% attack speed, so that's pretty good. For rage generation mostly. It will also help you dump a bunch more Heroic Strikes, which if you got rage cap, it will help. For the waist, we're gonna be taking Blood Surge. It's gonna give you a free slam, of course. For the legs, we're gonna be taking Consumed by Rage. This ability is gonna make it so your Whirlwind is gonna hit with 2 weapons at the same time, and that's gonna make it scale really high. It's gonna be even better than a 2-hander. For the feet, these are all useless. We're gonna be taking Rallying Cry because it can help the raid. It's like a defensive cooldown, and that's it. For the ring, we're gonna be taking the Weapon Specialization, and since we are dual wielding, you gotta take the other Weapon Specialization. So yeah, assume we got like a sword and an axe. We take dagger and axe, whatever, the same. You know, the 2 weapons, that's it. Your stat priority remains the same. Of course, you gotta get your hit cap, which is gonna be 9% minus 3% from the rune, the ring rune that gives you the weapon skill. So that's gonna be only 6%. After that, you're gonna be taking strength or attack power. After that, you're gonna be taking agility or crit, and that's pretty much it. Now, the part that you actually cared about, what's the rotation gonna look like now that we got the tier set bonus? So we can talk about the pre-pull. you wanna charge in and then go immediately into Berserker stance, and then you can actually just do your rend in Berserker stance because of the new rune. And you gotta keep rend up, so you gotta refresh it every time you can. What this will do though, if you go to battle stance and then charge and go to Berserker stance, is you're gonna have two buffs at the same time, 10% damage and 10% crit. The whole play of the warrior is now gonna be to just keep those buffs up constantly. Of course, first thing you wanna do is overpower. Every time you can overpower, you're gonna do that. It's like a slam, but it always crits, of course. After that, you're gonna do Bloodthirst. Bloodthirst is the best attack in the game. Of course, we're gonna prioritize it. After that, we're gonna be doing Blood Surge procs every time you get a free slam from the proc. I put a wiki around that in the Discord, by the way. It's gonna tell you when you get a proc. Every time you get a proc, you just do your slam for free. And after all of that, we're gonna do Whirlwind. Now the play, I'm gonna put a macro in the video right now, it's also gonna be in the Discord. The play is to make this macro that puts Berserker stance and Whirlwind. So every time you try to Whirlwind, you're gonna go back into Berserker stance and that's gonna give you the buff. And we're also gonna make this other macro for Overpower. I put a Wikora in the Discord for Overpower too, that is gonna tell you when it is possible to do it. This Overpower macro is gonna take you to battle stance every time you overpower, and this way you can automatically keep both of the buffs up at the same time. Now guys, yes, in theory, it would be better to stay on Berserker stance the whole time because Berserker stance has 3% more crit on it, but that is barely significant. I would much rather just have the macros and do them and have the macros do everything for me and never think again. If you wanna get a top rank one in the world, you gotta do it manually, you gotta do the stances manually, but if you are willing to sacrifice 3% crit half the time, that's all you gotta worry about. Thanks to the 6-piece, when you go to battle stance, you can still do all the other abilities, that's basically Whirlwind. You can still do it on battle stance for 5 seconds, so chances are you're gonna be just fine anyway. For the execute phase, all you gotta do is change the stances every time you need to, every 10 seconds, and just spam execute. You wanna do overpower every time you can too, to get deep wounds rolling, to keep that dot running every time. It's a guaranteed crit, of course, but just spamming execute is the way to go right now, which is a little lame, but whatever. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, the only thing that changed with this 6-piece is that we are actually gonna be overpowering. We're actually gonna take Taste for Blood. We were not taking Taste for Blood before, and of course, we're gonna have two stances in the rotation. My old rotation was skipping Whirlwind entirely and just standing on battle stance. That was by far the best way to do it at the time, but with the 6-piece, you gotta battle stance, you gotta stance dance all the time, which is kinda annoying, I get it. But I don't know, this is gonna increase your damage by like 20% though. Can you really complain when it is a 20% damage increase? Come on guys, like, people that think that the warrior is not gonna pump are just delusional. I know complaining works, do not tell Agren that I know they are busted, okay? Do not tell him, but come on guys, come on. Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.